What is going on, guys? Welcome back. Commentary for you, Jimmy Smith, Ryan Moody, MMA Show, UFC 250, Amanda Nunes, Felicia Spencer. We're going to start off the card, Jimmy, with an exciting bantamweight fight. Eddie Wineland, Sean O'Malley. Eddie Wineland has been really on and off in terms of fighting, really about one a year. But you know what? I think this is a perfect matchup to see a full fight Sean O'Malley. This guy's got great pressure, comes forward, plenty of power in that right hand, mixes everything up behind his jab. Kind of that veteran guy that wants to make a fight a brawl. Obviously, we all know the Sugar Show, if you will. Dynamic, spinning attacks, clinch attacks, works odd angles, unpredictable more than anything else, but only is a threat to end a fight at any point. However, I will say I think he needs a game plan, a complete game plan, to beat Eddie Wineland. I think he's going to have to do what a lot of fighters in the past have done, which is work Wineland's legs. I think the power of Eddie Wineland would worry me a little bit if I was Sean O'Malley, especially if I want to play around at distance. But I do think ultimately we're going to see Sean O'Malley get another win here, raise that stock a little bit, but I think it's going to be a harder fight than a lot of people give him credit for.
If you were going to set up a guy like Sean O'Malley, if you're the UFC, and you want to give him a slightly step-up fight, what kind of fighter do you give him? Guy with a name?
Eddie Wineland.
Right. Eddie Wineland. Eddie Wineland. You said it much more succinctly than I was going to. You give him Eddie Wineland. A guy who has fought big names, has not fought with any consistency over the last few years, and one fight in a calendar year since 2016. 6-7 in his last 13 fights. Has fought some big names, has never beaten a big name. It's one of those things where this is exactly what you want. GBND. Have I ever used that expression with you?
Yes.
Yeah, game but not dangerous. A guy that's gonna scrap, is gonna make it tough. Fans remember him, but he's not gonna win. Now, Wineland does have the power to turn your lights out if Sean O'Malley makes a mistake. So what we're gonna see, I think, is a more, I don't want to say cautious, but a sharper Sean O'Malley. A Sean O'Malley who's, respects the counterpunch, who respects this guy's experience, who won't throw everything in the first round looking for a knockout because he knows this might go into deeper water. Well, it's only a 3-round fight, deeper water. So I think we're going to see a better Sean O'Malley, a sharper Sean O'Malley, a Sean O'Malley who will give us an indication of how he does against better talent, against guys who don't just fold in the first couple minutes. So that's the kind of fight you want him to have. Promotions are rarely neutral. There's a lot more future in Sean O'Malley than there is in Eddie Wineland. You know which way they want this one to go. You know why they chose Eddie Wineland, and we'll see if it pays off. But you got to go with Sean O'Malley in this one.
Eddie Wineland knows that too, you know.
He's not stupid. He's been in this game long enough. He knows.
Moving up the card, welterweight, Neil Magny, Anthony Rocco Martin. Anthony Rocco Martin is, to me, becoming one of the more undervalued fighters in the UFC. Great ground game, does throw some kicks, but I think he's a lot better than most people give him credit for. However, I think Neil Magny can work the ground if he needs to. Probably doesn't want this to go to the ground, though. I think his best chance is going to be use of straights, high kicks. Martin is a tough out. I think this is a close fight, but I think you're going to have Neil Magny do just enough with volume to point out a win here over Anthony Martin.
You didn't see my preview.
I can prove it to you.
It's almost exactly what I said in terms of, I think this is going to be, the way I like to say is, ticky-tack. It's going to be very, very close. Both guys are rangy. They're tough to get a read on. They're both kind of counter punchers. They both have range. They don't necessarily use that effectively. All of those things together indicate to me that it's going to come down to the little tiny things. And it's a case of Neil Magny just being more experienced. He's been there more times. He's taken on better names. He's dealt with more adversity. And as a result, you're going to get a guy who knows how to win those minutes that win you rounds, that win you fights. And this is going to be a close fight where that's going to be, to me, the issue. How do you win the last 30 seconds of a round? How do you win just enough that, or do just enough that the judges side with you? And Neil Magny has that experience edge. And more than anything, physically, that's what does it for me. The experience edge of Neil Magny.
You didn't call the next one a fight of a night contender, did you?
It is the fight of the night.
Okay. Well, at least
Period.
we're continuing on the
end of sentence. It is the fight of the night. This is the real, to me, contender fight of this card.
This is the real co-main main event, Jimmy. I don't care.
Yeah, I believe that. It's a real co-main event. It really is. Thank you.
Jemaine Sterling, Cody Sanhagen. Guys, both on streaks. Sterling 4 in a row. I think Aljamain Sterling has looked better just about every fight he's went up here the past couple years. Great movement, really good inside, well-rounded, a technical fighter, honestly. Sanhagen 5 wins in a row. I think he is a less technical guy, but he is more explosive. Knees, good variety, really good combos. I think this is going to come down to, can Sterling stay on the outside and work takedowns? I think Sanhagen can try to work those legs, stay outside, but I think what's going to happen is we're going to have a scenario where Aljamain Sterling is going to get more takedowns and point out a win. If I had to say it, only because we agreed fight of the night contender, if not the fight of the night, I have a feeling this one may get a little controversial with the scoring, because I have a feeling that you're going to have Sanhagen put more damage out, more volume out, but I feel like the point fighting of Sterling getting the takedowns is going to be what is the difference. Words are tough when the fight actually ends.
This is a really hard fight to pick. It really is. And I'm not picking it with any confidence. I actually did a thing for like this Vegas gambling show, basically. And they talked about this fight. And they always ask me, like, what are some good parlays? What's some good bets? And I said, stay away from this fight. I said, don't make this part of your parlay. Like, if I hit this, I'll hit 3 in a row. No, I go, stay away from this fight. It's too close. Too many things could happen. They're too evenly matched. Here's the one X factor that I'd like to talk about. Aljamain Sterling has been passed over in this division. You can't argue that. He's been vocal about being passed over. You know how the UFC loves that. He's been vocal about contract disputes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He cannot afford to lose. More than if Sanhagen loses this fight, disappointing. He doesn't want that, obviously. He can crawl his way back to the top pretty quickly. He's a talented guy. He's young. He has an exciting style. I think he can be a contender very quickly. Aljamain Sterling, with his vocal disagreements with UFC, he loses. Not only does it really set him back in terms of the overall title picture, and especially right now, I think they give him nothing but murderers from there on out, and they keep him out of the title picture, which they've done so far anyway. He's been very upset about that. He's kind of been the man passed over in the 135-pound division. If he loses to Corey Sanhagen, back of the line. Really bad. You can disagree with UFC. You can get in, get in Twitter wars with Dana White and all stuff, as long as you keep winning. The moment you don't, it's okay, see ya. And with Aljamain Sterling, I really think he's in that position where maybe when it gets tough at the end of the 3 rounds, and people have talked about he's had gas issues before, I think that motivation gets him through some very, very tough times against Corey Sanhagen. I think the fact that he cannot afford to take a step back right now, maybe the motivation he needs. I'm barely going with Aljamain Sterling.
How confident are you on a gambling site when our picks have been known to be awful?
My picks are pretty good. I aced the last card.
Jimmy, if you're hyping yourself up the last couple of weeks.
Hype.
What? Prior to that, though. Prior to that, how did it look?
I always give the reasons why a pick is solid or not solid. Anything can happen in a fight, but my logic is always sound.
That's not what I was asking, though. I said prior to that, how did your picks look?
Jimmy Smith. Booyah.
Pretty raggedy. Is the answer.
Jimmy Smith. That's jealousy talking. It's beneath you. Jealousy.
All right.
Okay.
Well, the fight that should not be jealous it's the co-main event, should be glad it's the co-main. I don't know how, but here we go. Rafael Sunsao, Cody Garbrandt. Oh, Cody Garbrandt. I don't know where to start, man. I don't know where he's going to be mentally. With everything going on outside of, the apex, his knockouts, the layoffs, I just don't know where Cody Garbrandt is going to be. And he can talk himself up. He's talked himself up a lot while he's been in the UFC. But the reality is, at this point, he's a really good boxer with good movement, but we don't know where he truly is. Nice straight, excellent left hook, beautiful head movement, great combos. But I think one of the areas he really struggles is when he can't control a fight. When somebody brings the fight to him, think about all the great Cody Garbrandt moments, pointing at the ground, standing back, tap dancing. All those things are wonderful when he controls the pace, when he controls the pressure. I don't think that Assunção is going to allow that to happen. I think he's got too good of a ground game, and he knows that this has to stay on the feet. I think he's going to attack Cody's base. He's used to being a smaller fighter, so that's natural for him. He's got a great overhand right of his own. I'm actually amazed when I looked back that he doesn't have more KOs. I think he only has 4. So ultimately, I feel like this is going to be the fight where Cody actually gets taken down for a meaningful amount of time, gets worked over, and loses to submission. So that's where I put this one, but I feel like this is a really awkward co-main event, and a lot of it is depending on Cody Garbrandt's mental space. And right now, we got fighters coming in on streaks, performing well, that are coming in and kind of looking to step down to who they are just based on no crowd, all those things. And I think Cody Garbrandt's going to be really one of those guys that loses that push because there is no crowd. There is no atmosphere. I think he's going to be one of the guys that we really see take a step back and look like a different fighter. We talked about it. Go back to February. We talked about fighters that came out flat and didn't look like themselves. We haven't seen it for a little bit, but I think Cody Garbrandt's going to be the ones that suffer from that.
He is an emotional fighter. That is 100%. He's an emotional fighter. That's it. That is just how he is. The issue to me is he has changed camps. He's tried to switch some things around. He has tried to make some adjustments because the overarching problem he's had is mid-fight decisions. He has trouble making adjustments. Against TJ Dillashaw, he got dropped by the same right hand. He got rocked by it, and then he got dropped by it. I mean, it's just anybody could have told him that. You have to stay away from that, and he didn't. That's been his issue, is bad decisions in big fights, and that's really cost him. Now, has his fight IQ gone up? Is he getting better coaching now? Is he in a better place mentally? Got to remember, this guy was on top of the world 4 fights ago. Then 3 in a row, all by knockout, has really set him back. I think this fight is loaded in a similar way that the Aljamain Sterling fight is loaded, in that Assunção, if he wins, is he on the short list for a title shot? Probably not. Garbrandt is. He can easily say, I told you TJ was a doper. He doped. He beat me when he was doped. That doesn't count. I want another shot. Da-da-da-da-da. And we as fans will buy that. I will. It's hard to say TJ Dillashaw was doped for Cejudo and wasn't doped for the Dillashaw fight. So he has this kind of do-over in his head. But in order to get that, he needs to win this fight. He cannot, once again, he cannot afford to lose it. If you look at the Sanhagen fight, and Sanhagen is a different kind of striker, Assunção didn't deal well with the physical pressure. He didn't deal well with Sanhagen being in his face all the time. He didn't deal well with constantly being on his back foot. And once again, a different style of striker, but I think that physical pressure is going to be a big factor in this fight. Now, the issue is if he really commits to a takedown, is Garbrandt ready for it? Garbrandt's a better wrestler, but doesn't have the scrambling ability of Sanhagen. So it's going to be interesting. I think he's going to bring physical pressure that's going to make Assunção uncomfortable. That's been his kryptonite in his last couple fights. And I think Cody Garbrandt gets a win this time because he needs it.
Well, we disagree. Rarely happens, but there you've got one. Main event, Amanda Nunes, Felicia Spencer. This is a cyborg-esque run that Nunes is on. I say that because obviously we know what happened in that fight. A lot of people look back and say, oh, well, Spencer went a full fight with Cyborg. We used Cyborg, if you will, as the barometer for women's fighters for the longest time. But that myth is over. We saw what Amanda did just a few years ago, And I think that really puts her as the premier female fighter, if not of all time. I don't know what else she has to do to get there. She is fighting Spencer, who looked very good in her last fight, has very good kicks, especially her high kicks. But let's be honest, her boxing is limited. Her speed is limited. I think if she can get on top on the ground game, that may be the only area I worry about Amanda Nunes. Can she get on top? And Amanda Nunes is good on the ground, particularly good from the bottom, but I just don't feel like that's going to be something Spencer can do. Amanda, I mean, what else do we have to say? Great power, follows through, beautiful right straight, speed, movement. Jimmy, until I see a way someone beats Amanda Nunes at this level, I don't think it's going to happen. I think you're going to see a second fight stoppage or second round stoppage, and we're not going to hear any more about Chris Cyborg.
I think Father Time's going to have to catch up with Amanda Nunes. I agree with you completely. Until I see her slowing down, until I see some cracks in the armor, until I see some personal issues, I guess, that derail her outside of the octagon, then I'll believe it. Right now, I see a woman propping up 2 divisions on her own. Because let's face it, 35 and 45 right now is a wasteland. Challengers are coming up, kind of like in the Ronda Rousey days. Challengers are coming up just because they weigh the right amount and they're ready to go. You know, there just isn't anybody else in line right now. So it's Felicia Spencer. I'm not saying she doesn't deserve it. I'm saying just the talent pool isn't that deep. I don't think she can handle the short range power. She's a little bit bigger, so if she can get on top of her, she has excellent ground and pound, great submission game. I don't think that becomes a factor. I don't think she can walk through the hands in order to get the takedown. I don't see that happening. The only thing we differ on is I see it happening a little bit later. This is a woman who took some bad punches from Cyborg and hung in there for 3 rounds. I think it's going to take the championship rounds. She's going to wear down, eat some big ones, and then rounds 4 and 5 is when the ship starts listing, starts sinking. I think it's going to be either a decision or it's going to be a late finish. And I was asked a couple of days ago, and I work for ESPN International right now as their MMA guy, and he said, "Look, the host said, look, we've seen Amanda Nunes fight at a measured pace sometimes. Sometimes she goes out and throws caution to the wind and blows her opponent away. Which one do you think it is?" And I said, well, look, she's cautious when she has to be. Against Shevchenko, she respected the stand-up. And I think against Jemaine Durandamy, she respected the stand-up. I don't think she respects the stand-up of Felicia Spencer. She's never been a great boxer, as you said. I don't think she's worried about catching a big punch. I think she goes out there and she throws early, but it takes a while to wear her down. Knockout round 4.
You know, when I watched these fights again, I went back, I looked at the Raquel Pennington fight. I really had forgotten that in the tail end of that fight, that Raquel had wanted to be out. She did not want to see it past the 4th round, and she got willed back out there. And you're right. You know, when I talk about Cyborg comparisons ending, it's going to put these girls now. Cyborg, obviously not in the UFC, but was the premier name for the longest time, was the ultimate measuring stick that we had. And I just think, as you said, we're getting far away from her having competed. We're looking at girls that either went the full distance or beat her. And as you said, it's just going to be, you know, the Megan Anderson Invitational at this point, right? I mean, who else are you going to bring in? You know, do you run some of these fights back? I mean, I'd love to see the Valentina fight go back, but, you know, you've got weight classes there that have to be dealt with. It's a shame that we've got such a dominant champion, as you said, a girl holding up 2 divisions, and it seems like it's just one of the least talked about narratives that we have.
Yeah, and there are 3 divisions with 2 names. 25, 35, and 45 is Amanda Nunes and Valentina Shevchenko, and that's it. That is all. Above 115, it's a wasteland. 115 is stacked, ton of talent, ton of potential contenders, and that weight class, it just doesn't have, and it never has been. It was Ronda Rousey and everybody else. It was Cyborg and everybody else. It's been a one-woman show. And right now it's Amanda Nunes, and not only is she perhaps the greatest female mixed martial artist of all time, she's holding up 2 divisions. So the only advantage Felicia Spencer has is she's a natural 145er, and Nunes can make 35. That's the only real physical advantage she has, and I don't think it's going to be enough.
Well, one disagreement the whole fight, Jimmy. I think we'll be okay. We appreciate you guys checking this out. We will be back to recap afterwards and appreciate you taking time out of your day with this.